Okay, thank. Yeah, it's a bit slow, so that's why the camera off. Uh, so, uh, Thank you for the opportunity. And yes, a little snapshots of metropolitan Delhi, and like to talk about metropolis and heritage of Delhi. So, one second, I'm just yeah. So, like Delhi being a metropolis. Is a region where ancient heritage, modern governance, and rapid growth converge, making it, one second, my text is, yeah, thank you for your patience, both a cultural capital and also a city of immense challenges. So, what you see on the left is basically what the GIS map at the Bhuvan portal looks like, where we see the river and the ridge. And this is the planned city of Delhi, where we have these various zones. Right in the center, we have zone A, and then we have the walled city on the right, and then we have A, B, C, D, so on and so forth. So basically, if you look at the scale and the demographies, the population of the national capital territory is 16.7 million residents, as estimated in 2025. And NCR is where we go a little outside the boundary of the National Capital Territory, which is outside the color boundary, which is like we have on the west, we have Haryana, in the east, Uttar Pradesh, and south Haryana again. So that makes about 30 million, making it one of the largest urban agglomeration globally. If we talk about the urban spread, Delhi's metropolitan footprint extends far beyond its administrative boundaries, which is in green and encompassing satellite cities like Gurugram, Noida, Ghaziabad, Faridabad, etc. And so, if you look at the historical, relevance, Delhi is popularly known as seven cities, nine cities, even 12 cities, and in those lines. So Delhi has served as a capital of multiple empires. Sultanate 13th century, Mughal 16th, 18th centuries, the British India Empire 1911. And since 1950, the New Delhi has been the capital of the Republic, symbolizing continuity and transformation. So, cultural mosaic, as a metropolis of diverse languages, religions, traditions, monuments of modern landmark buildings. Then it's a hub of art, cuisine, festivals reflecting India's pluralism. Delhi is also a major economic center with strengths in services like IT, trade, manufacturing. The NCR cities like Gurugram, Noida as in, New Okla Industrial Development Authority, have become global outsourcing and tech hubs, completing Delhi's traditional markets like Chandni Chowk, which is basically what we know as the commercial hub of the old Delhi. So rapid urbanization has led to congestion, pollution, and housing shortages. These are the urban challenges that we are facing in Delhi. And we know that Delhi faces severe air quality issues, ranking among the most polluted cities globally. And I'm right now sitting in Delhi, and I can see we are actually using purifiers in every room. Uh, Hopefully, it's working. And the governance complexity, the coexistence of multiple jurisdictions like Delhi government, central government, the NCR authorities, that complicates the urban management. Now, in the global context, the paradox of a global mega city, Delhi has immense opportunities in culture and economy, but equally daunting challenges in sustainability and governance. It is often compared with other metropolises like we know, like Shanghai now and Sao Paulo, Cairo, where heritage and modernity collide. So, Delhi is not just India's capital, it is a living lab of metropolitan growth, where the balance between heritage conservation, economic expansion, and sustainable urban policy will determine its future trajectory. So, talking a little bit about the geography of Delhi, the Yamuna River, which is we see in blue from north to south, towards the cutting the towards the east of the city. So the Yamuna has historically sustained Delhi's settlements, providing water, fertile floodplains, and natural defense. The old Delhi, which is Shahjahanabad, as I said, right at the center, which is A, and then walled city, as in WC, were deliberately located along the Yamuna with palaces like Red Fort, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, gardens and ghats oriented towards the river. The river is sacred in the Hindu tradition and has been central to rituals, festivals, and everyday life even now. Today, the Yamuna River suffers from pollution, encroachment, ecological degradation. And when we talk about the historical urban landscape perspective, the Yamuna exemplifies how natural systems are integrated to heritage, requiring conservation not just of monuments but also ecological flows. Yeah, if you talk about the ridge actually cuts across the city. So if you see the green, the center, if you see zone D on the left, so we have the northern ridge, the central ridge, and the southern ridge. So the Delhi Ridge is the northernmost extension of the Aravalli Hills, forming a rocky spine that cuts through the city. It served as a strategic defense zone from the Saltanat forts to British cantonment. The ridge also hosted key battles, including the 1857 uprising, the most famous ones that finally led to the independence of India as an independent nation. Ecological value, it's also known as the green lungs. The ridge supports native flora fauna, acting as a biodiversity refuge. Colonial planners preserved large parts of the ridge as forests. As you can see from the legend, you will see green belt, protected forest. MPD green is the master plan greens, and then we have the zonal boundaries. You also see in red dots are what the centrally protected monuments. These are monuments of the national importance, and ASI as in the Archaeological Survey of India. And then we have the state protected monuments, which are protected by the states, which are in orange. But you also see the concentration more towards the along the river and south. So colonial planners preserved large parts of the ridge as forest, integrating it into the New Delhi's garden city design. The ridge represents landscape dimension of heritage, where geology, ecology, history converge. Delhi as a historic landscape, with successive capitals built by different dynasties from the Indraprastha era, Mahabharata to Delhi Sultanate. I will take you to the plan. Mughal Shahjahanabad, British capital New Delhi, and each layer left behind monuments, streets patterns, water systems, cultural practices. The Old Delhi, dense organic street networks, bazaars, courtyards, and houses, whereas the Latin Bungalow zone or the New Delhi planned colonial capital with New Delhi avenues, garden city principles, and monument architecture. And then post-independence, we have satellite towns sprawling NCR, as I said, Noida, Gurugram, Faridabad. And together, these morphology illustrate the continuity and transformation of Delhi's urban fabric. Delhi's heritage is not just monuments, like we have three UNESCO World Heritage sites, the Red Fort, the Qutub Minar complex, and the Humayun's tomb, but also intangible festivals, crafts, food, traditions, and community. And now we have Diwali as a listed in the uh, intangible cultural expressions in the UNESCO list. And the coexistence, of course, of religious sites like temples, mosques, gurudwaras are temples of the Sikh community, and churches reflects Delhi's plural identity. So this is what I was talking about. If you look at the ruling dynasty and the city, how it developed, keeping the blue line as the river. So 1060 is where we have the Lal Kot that came into the picture, southern side, which is the present Mehroli area. And then 1180 Kila Rai Pithora was constructed. Then Siri came into the picture with that green dot, 1297, then 1321. Tughlaqabad, which is a further green patch on the right. 1326, Jahanpana, which actually, connected the Siri and the Kila Rai Pithora. And then further 1354, Firozabad, 1540, Shergarh, 1638, Shahjahanabad, which is the Old Delhi, which is where the Red Fort is, and 1911, the imperial capital, British capital of New Delhi. So we see this is how it has grown, and Lal Kot, Kila Rai Pithora is the area. 1180 is where the Qutub Minar is, and then yeah, and then again 1688, Shahjanabad further Shergarh is where near that we have the old fort and also the Humayun's tomb. So 1911, then post that is where post 19. So if you see the timeline on top, so we end at 1957, and post that is where the uh, post-independent, the Delhi, India as a nation started plan development, and this is the first master plan of Delhi, 1962, showing the land use plan. Then this is the 2001 master plan of Delhi, the land use plan, showing the further planned and development and going beyond um, what was, what was there in 1962. So 2001, then 2021. This is the master plan of 2021 land use plan, and this is a very crucial. So this was notified in 2007, and this is a very crucial time because this is the master plan where we actually had something called a chapter on the built heritage of Delhi. So moving on, so coming back to this plan, coming back to this timeline is where we see, so this is how Delhi got built, and this is the imperial cities of Delhi, like the ruling dynasties of Delhi, and this is what can this formed what we call, the seven cities, excuse me, or the eight cities or the nine cities of Delhi. So this is what it looks like now. And so if you see, the red dotted lines are critical heritage, critical areas where heritage monuments and buildings are surrounded by unplanned developments, and one of the biggest challenges in Delhi are the encroachments. So the gray areas that you see are unplanned areas of Delhi within the development plan. Then you see the maroons or the urban villages, and so moving on from here, so coming to the interplay of the river and the ridge, which played a crucial part in the what we call the heritage system of Delhi ever since. So together, the Yamuna and the ridge frame Delhi's spatial identity, the river as a source of life and culture, and the ridge as a protective and ecological anchor. So the historic urban landscape approach reminding us that heritage is not just only built structures but also natural systems, and that shape the urban evolution of Delhi. So if we look at it, so it's roughly this triangle is where most of the heritage system of Delhi is placed. So I overlap this within the zonal plan of Delhi. So when we see this triangle, once that gets translated, so this is what we get. So from here to here. So this gives us a clear picture about how the heritage system of Delhi works. So this is a complete analysis that this was my last work with when I was in DDA. So 2020, 2021, and we collaborated with NIUA, INTAC, and so this is where the Delhi Development Authority makes the master plans of Delhi. So this is the entire analysis that we did of the centrally protected monuments, the state protected monuments. You can see the numbers 174, 19. Then we have heritage buildings with urban local bodies. And if you look at it, the main concentration of the heritage is in zone A, C, D, and F. I will go there further, a closer look. So if you look at the grade-wise quantum of heritage buildings, uh, so we have like, and then we have ownership of heritage buildings. So we have 6 heritage buildings with the National Monument Authority. So anyway, this is just a snapshot. We can always go back here. So this is the stakeholder mapping that we did that I did with NIUA team and DDA team. So you see, we have the stakeholders of heritage management. We have the Archaeological Survey of India, which is which lists buildings. It is also a funding agency and also a regulatory body. Then we have Waqf Board. The Waqf Board is also it's a stakeholder for identification and listing, and a regulatory body, advisory body as well. Then Delhi Urban Arts Commission, it's came into picture. So this is another stakeholder timeline and stakeholder jurisdiction. So you will see we have urban local bodies, which are basically regulatory implementation bodies. Then INTAC, which is an NGO, which is basically an advisory body. Then we have Delhi Tourism, which identification, listing, funding, regulation. Then Delhi Urban Heritage Foundation is where I was attached to. In 1999, we had the regulations. It doesn't list, but it does fund, does a bit of funding. And then we have Delhi Development Authority as an agency, which identifies and lists building. And of course, it's a regulatory body. Then Heritage Conservation Committee came into being in 2004. It's a identification, then regulation, then Aga Khan, we are all know about it, Aga Khan Trust, Aga Khan Cultural Trust. It's basically advisory body as far as Delhi is concerned. And then we have, of course, Shahjahanabad Development Board, which is actually the old Delhi, which is Zone A. It's also an advisory body and also a body that implements. And then 2010, where we have the National Monument Authority, strictly restricting to the national monuments and also looks into regulations. Yes, coming to the zones, if you see, this is a bit of analysis of zone-wise heritage buildings. So if you see, maximum concentration that we have is a zone. Zone A has two parts, walled city and outside the walled city. So you see, walled city is like really dark. So it's like it has 451 notified heritage assets. Then we have zone D is where we have the Lutyens Bungalow zone, where the very famous Central Vista is there. So that has about 51 to 125 notified and protected buildings. So on and so forth. So it gets lighter as we go outside. So again, the rough triangle is there. So heritage monuments and buildings in other zones is only 44%, and heritage monuments and buildings in zone A, C, and D, as you can see, F as well. F is where the Mehrauli is and the Qutub Minar is. And D is where the Humayun's tomb World Heritage Site is, and A is where the Red Fort is. So all three are UNESCO World Heritage sites. So this is the zone-wise division of listed heritage monuments under, and what agency owns it, and what zone, and this belongs to which zone of Delhi. So we have listed heritage monuments. We have listed heritage monuments that belongs to the state. We have the urban local body listed heritage buildings and precincts. And this is just a total that we're talking about. Coming to the local body. So Delhi, sorry, am I audible? Hello?
Okay, go ahead, Jana.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Had some little interruption, but it's okay.
Yeah, there was some interruptions. I was just wondering. So if you divide that, if you see the black dots is where the heritage properties are and the heritage precincts are. So New Delhi Municipal Corporation has about 11% of heritage. The North Delhi Municipal Corporation 63%. Delhi Cantonment Board, right in the center of the map, that has only 1%. It has a lot of a few colonial structures. And the South Delhi Municipal Corporation has about 25%. This is the analysis of the historic urban landscape of Delhi. Coming to the ward-wise, this is another number of, this is only talk about the number of monuments, and you can see the dark red areas are where the maximum, the maroon is where the maximum number of monuments are there. And of course, river as a reference. So moving on from here, Okay, so this is so Delhi has about the master plan has about 6 heritage zones, and they are all visible. They're very tiny here, but you can see the demarcation of the heritage zones in purple. And then we have about 3 archaeological parks, and that are also in red. So you'll be able to see from the within, if you imagine the central triangle, it's all in there. So, and of course, then we have there were some proposals about heritage routes. So you can see the dark red, that is actually the heritage route, and also it'll be interesting that most of it is also traditional routes that went from Shahjahanabad to Mehroli. And so part of it is heritage routes. Then you see Central Vista, which is a heritage route again. Um, s- and then closing in. So if you're talking about Shahjahanabad, Old Delhi, this is a closing. This is a blow up of Shahjahanabad area of Old Delhi. If you see on the right, you have the Red Fort, and then this the I'll just try to have a pointer. So this is Red Fort, and here is where the famous Chandni Chowk commercial street is. This is the Jama Masjid. So, and this is you see the dense quality of this area. So urban local body notified heritage buildings are about 90% here, and ASI listed heritage monuments about 2%. So again, going to the central zone D and central vista, this is what it looks like. This is the powerhouse of Delhi. So the Latin Bangla zone has a considerable number of heritage buildings and a distinguished character, very different from that of this. And therefore, while devising any redevelopment guidelines for the zone, so now we have urban local body notified heritage buildings about 78%, and the dark purple area heritage assets identified. The dark purple, the central, this area is what the Central Vista is. And people who are familiar with Delhi is this is where the Connaught Place is, and this is where this is the Shahjahanabad area starts here. So these are the two areas, this area were the last two imperial cities that went for the UNESCO tentative list nomination, but unfortunately it's been taken back. So moving on, this is coming further down. This is the Mehroli Archaeological Park and urban local heritage buildings in 83rd here. And park, and adjacent to that is the World Heritage Site of the Qutub Minar. So moving on, so this is what is the 2041 master plan of Delhi land use plan looks like. But if we compare, this is in paper, but if we compare it with our analysis, I'm just going to shift that, bring this plan here. So if you see yellow is being the residential, is also a lot of it is also
Jana,
unplanned.
there's a little bit some interruption in your talk. Can you repeat?
And so this is, I was, yeah, there's some, my connection seems to be unstable. Am I back?
Yes, you are.
I'm sorry about the network challenge. So this is where I was. So 2041 land use plan. But in real time, if we see when we overlap these two plans, is the yellow is the residential. So also the gray, a lot of it. So this is the part that I'm talking about, and you see a lot of it is also unplanned and unplanned within the development plan of the proposed development plan. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done. This entire pink is basically the concentration of the slum designated area, and this requires plan development, which we hopefully will see in the coming years. And hopefully that plan development will be in conformity with the existing heritage system of Delhi. So next I'm going to take you through some photographs which are, self-explain, which itself it'll be self-explaining itself. So this is what real-time Delhi is. This is the Chandni Chowk area. This is the river with the landmark on, but you can see the condition of the river, the recent floods, and this is how the river Yamuna was initially. So now we have a road, but every time during the monsoon, there is flash floods, and also there is the river that comes to the wall. So in a way, the river is finding its own way to where it was. And then this is another view from the Chandni Chowk minaret, and this is, you can see the air quality, and if you see all these photographs, it's a little grayish. And
Jana, you are
presidential
not,
house.
sometimes you cannot listen because there are lots of interruptions. So that's just go ahead, but just warning you.
All right. Thank you, Veera, but I'm extremely sorry. I just can't help it. Okay.
No,
Now
that's
the
okay.
ridge.
Same
Yeah.
happens to
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you. So the ridge now the edge, the ridge. So I'm going to end. So the challenges in the HR residents in conservation decisions, Mexico. So basically, Delhi exemplifies the
We lost her. Oh, yeah. Jana, you're back?
I'm back. I don't know when I left. Anyway, so I'm on my last slide. I'm sorry for this
So
interruption.
let's see put back the last slide.
Yeah, this was the last slide. Did you miss the illustrations that I had? Did you miss this?
We're in the middle of the illustrations.
The last one really saw was the one of the
So I'm
cranes
saying
on the ridge.
this is where the river is, yes, ridge. And this is
Her
what I was talking
connection is bad. I mean, she won't be able
about,
to
the actual
present
framework
again
challenges
because
and
connection is
opportunities.
very bad. Yeah.
I'm here by not frozen.
Well, Jana, can you hear us?
Yeah. So I'm done. I'm going to stop sharing.
Okay. Well, that was really it was fantastic. I mean, we're talking about a metropolitan area of 30 million. I can't think of many countries with that number of people. I mean, it's quite amazing. And I think that I'd like to ask one question, and perhaps other people as well would are welcome. But you mentioned that the Delhi was the new Delhi, the British Delhi was not forwarded. Was this a threat? Was this a problem of decolonization? What was the debate on the colonial heritage?
I think it was more like the government wanted to develop the Central Vista. That was the main part of the Zone D and the Lutyens Bungalow zone, and I think that's why it was taken back. So are you asking for the decolonization debate that went?
Yes.
I'm on recording, right? So yeah, that will save it for some other time outside the recording. Yeah.
Right. Okay, well, so as I said, I was there for one of the workshops for preparing the that nomination. So for me, it's quite interesting. But the seven hills of Rome, there's seven hills in Jerusalem, and there's seven cities in Delhi. But that really is the amazing part of the heritage in the metropolis. How do we merge this together into activities? Is somebody else would like to make a comment or add something to the discussion? Adva, how does that relate then to Tel Aviv?
I'm just really impressed by the maps, and I think it's really interesting to see how heritage works with municipal boundaries and with any boundaries beyond, and like this I would say interchange of boundaries and heritage. So this is like a preliminary, because I joined in the middle, this is like a preliminary observation that it is indeed a very important discourse. And the maps show that. So thank you, Jana. And congratulations.
I would think that I think what is important was right at the beginning, the icon, of course, is the Yamaha River, and that's exactly what it is. But I think that the contribution of Hull is to add then the ridge as a green line or a dotted line or something like that. So we get the river and the ridge as a contribution to a Hull icon for Delhi. Jana?
Yeah, sorry, Mike. I'm like coming in and out. Yeah, once again, please.
So I was thinking that the icon which you have at the beginning is of the Yamaha River and how that comes along. I think the
Yes.
contribution of Hull is adding another line, which is the ridge line. In other words, so that's another element which the historic urban landscape can add to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. And also there is this discussion about ridge development, and also the government is starting to, take 4% of the ridge and so we have to see how the government is doing the developments there, construction there. And that's why I showed the images. So yes, yes. So if you're talking about, that's why I talked about Delhi as a historic urban landscape. There's a lot we can do. And it's of course very challenging for a dense city like Delhi with multiple governing agencies, government system layers. But yes, it's a step that we can take. Yes, absolutely.
David, you've come online. You've come
Well,
on.
I just opened the camera, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, amplifying or whatever that, I think it's a very helpful reminder, especially as we're starting the working group on historic urban landscape, that cultural landscapes never exist in a vacuum or on tabula rasa, as it were, but very much on the three dimensions of the topography of site and situation and location. And that draws attention to the importance of the mixed heritage category in the World Heritage classification. And I regret that is still a tiny fraction of the total, and most applications still seem to fit either under the cultural or the natural rather than the mixed, which seems to me a much more useful way of thinking about the complexities of our real world cities.
Comparisons, Rio, Athens,
Yeah, I would say,
Vera.
oh, yeah. Yeah, congratulations, Sean, again. Yeah, one observation is that in all cities, like in Rio and other, I mean, at least in Brazil, the historical landscape, the protected ones are all are close to downtown, in the center, and not in the periphery. But you have a lot of important heritage, daily heritage in the periphery, and I mean, governments and all the agencies, even UNESCO, do not pay attention to that. So always like that. The center, all the historical, the cultural, the very famous buildings, but not the daily ones. I mean, where the people live. Like sometime Francisco he challenged us to start doing heritage in slums. In Rio, we have a lot of slums museums that are always also being considered as heritage. So it's the same as Delhi. So I could see some, not only in Rio, I think it's more useful to compare with São Paulo. It's more closely the nature, the topography, and also the site and location is closely related to São Paulo more than in Rio, I would say. It's more or less the same situation.
Yeah.
And just a comment
Francesco.
No, just a comment. In fact, thank you, Jana, very much. It is very. I mean, it shows. I actually happen to know very well the situation in Delhi, so I think you you created a very very interesting picture. And one question that I always have is, of course, heritage is very important in Delhi. Sort of, pinpoints not only the center, as Vera was saying, but also the periphery. But how much is this embodied in the urban planning culture? Because sometimes we have a split between the cultural regulation culture and the and the urban planning. How much you think the expansion of or certain parts of Delhi have been somehow conscious of this resource as part of their structuring? Is this a question maybe too general, but maybe you can elaborate on that.
Francisco, that's a very good question. And I always say that, the Delhi had very rich heritage. And because I criticize the planners always, I'm very vocal about blaming the planners of India. That yes, they were very insensitive towards the existing heritage when we had, because we had the opportunity, when we had the first 1962 master plan of Delhi. So what was done was the heritage areas were separated, and the development was done outside of the heritage areas. So it's basically heritage was, rather than you looking at heritage, your developed plan is actually your heritage is at the back of the developed text. So now it is getting the planning. I hope this is the question that you're asking, Francisco. So culture of heritage in the planning is getting there. We are getting there. We are far from it, but honestly, I will not say we've not done anything. We are getting there, and it's huge and it's complex, because in the 62 plan there was just a word of conservation. Then came 2021, where we actually had a chapter on conservation, and now we actually, because 2041 came after the 2015 rollout of the SDGs. So it is a much better plan, much more cultural sensitive, and we have to see how much would that be actually implementable or implemented, because since the plan is yet not notified. But yes, the planners are getting sensitive and sensitized. I hope that is what you were asking. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'd like to ask. I mean, we're still in a monument mode, but when I think about Rio and the debate that the favelas are also part of heritage sites, I mean, there are also a lot of community areas. This first photograph which you showed, which was just sort of the teeming life which is taking place in Delhi, and that's part of the heritage. And it's not just simply the monument. How in fact are these activities? I think that what we should be looking at in Heritopolis is these other places.
Yes, no, we have gone beyond monument-centered approach. Definitely. I mean, we are not there. We have moved on from there. But as you see, with that kind of population, that kind of, you know, urban pressures on everything, every aspect of sources that we have, it will take time. And I think, and also the government is trying, and also I think at the individual level, we need to try, and also that it's happening. I will not say it's not happening. And yes, but we have gone out of monumentary centric mode way back. I mean, it's not visible, I know, but we have. Yes.
I don't know whether Ella is with us, but is Delhi on the World Cities Cultural Forum? I'm not too sure. Okay, so not yet from Ella. Okay, this another opportunity for networking. I think that what we should be really looking at is what Jana's saying, is that there's an importance of growing importance of then understanding what heritage is. So if I was to look at the map and to look at the peripheral area that there's no heritage, I would say that's where I have to sort of create heritage, something which needs to be done to create better identity. I don't know. Okay, anybody else would like to say something?
I
Sophia.
think, Mike, I would just add to
Yeah.
what you said there. I'm sure there is heritage. It's not being acknowledged or formally
Yeah.
recognized or codified as
Right.
a
Well,
key
that was
distinction.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we cannot
thank you.
create heritage cannot be created. I mean, it's already there. Who decides it's important or not are the people that live on that site. So maybe if people were like asked to indicate or to survey which are the important buildings or sites or squares or places, maybe then you're gonna have more an inventory, participatory inventory map. I think it's important to consider that.
Well, I think it's a chicken and egg over here. I think that it's really so important. I think this is where we can make a change, is to, and this is what the historic urban landscape is talking about. It is beyond the historic center, beyond the ensemble, beyond the buildings. And I think that Jana showed us that that's the direction of which it's going, and it's very exciting to look at the polycentric ideas of the metropolis. Even of the city. I mean, the city of 16 million is quite great. Anything anymore?